Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics. And the coronavirus pandemic has drawn a lot of parallels with Brexit, the other doom of our time. And in this video, I'd like to discuss another one, namely how the government may well use their strategy of blaming the public for our second COVID wave as a test run for doing the same with Brexit. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, then please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, Brexit. This is the month of Brexit. Brexit. And although the jury is still out on the will they, won't they extend, I believe they will not extend unless put under enormous political pressure. And I don't see that enormous political pressure on the horizon. We'll see, but the more I've thought about it, the more things happen, the more it's falling into place. And I'm thinking, yep, they absolutely intend the hard Brexit at the end of the year. But assuming that Boris Johnson does not extend, what is the consequence of that? Well, hard Brexit at the end of the year, food and medicine shortages, the destruction of what's left of much of our manufacturing industry, and an economic shitstorm that the government will endeavour and probably succeed in hiding behind the economic tsunami of coronavirus. But they can't hide the food and medicine shortages. It's quite easy to hide economic data. I mean, the government were trying to claim that the economy was in good shape for the general election at a time when it was utterly stagnant. But you can't hide the fact that everything the Remain camp would say would go wrong will have gone wrong. And they can't deny that. And you can bet your arse as well that the Remain camp, I will be amongst them, will have out the I told you so banners loud and proud. So how does the government expect to get away with it? This is the burning question. This is the one that has been bothering me for a while. Because if they can't get away with it, they will have to extend, or else they might as well not even bother running in the next general election. For my money, I think the next couple of months is going to be a dry run of their plan. Now, the government haven't just made a mess of Brexit, but also our coronavirus response. As a result, tens of thousands of people have died needlessly. I mean, I was just thinking about it last night. I remember not very long ago when the government was saying, we'll do well to keep the number of deaths below 20,000. Now, at the time, that seemed shocking. Even that sounded like a failure. 20,000 would be horrendous when we had so much more warning than other people, and we're an island. We could have shut up shop immediately. And yet it sailed past double that figure by the government's own estimation. By the real figures, it's treble. And it hasn't even finished. It's not even nearly finished. So we know many more are going to die as a result of the ham-fisted failure to adopt a suitable test, trace and isolate strategy as well. Now, the government will inevitably attempt to blame the British public for any second wave. I say that as if it's in doubt when the latest government's figures show that the second wave has already begun. But anyway, the government will not accept that it's down to a lack of testing or their poor leadership or their poor communications, and certainly not down to the easing of the lockdown too soon. No, it will be the public's fault for not observing social distancing. That will be what they aim to do. Now, before last week, I'd have been fairly sure that it would work as well. I had some doubts, but I thought it'll probably work. But after the Dominic Cummings furore, I'm not so sure now. It may still work. It may not. But the point is that I think that this is exactly what they plan to do with Brexit as well. It's the only thing that makes sense. Politically, they cannot extend the transition period. I know that there are those in the media close to senior Conservatives who think they will. And I know that there are anonymous sources actually working in Whitehall who think they will as well. But they are labouring under the misapprehension that the government aren't completely insane. I saw someone on Twitter yesterday saying, I'm going to quote this, it's good. I once thought, after the referendum, no government would be mad enough to send the Article 50 notification because of the sheer decades-long amount of work that would be needed. I was wrong. The government was that mad. And I think the same applies here. A lot of people were trying to think, I've been trying to think this in my head. They're giving all the signs that they want the hard Brexit, but do they want the hard Brexit? Do they fall for their own ploy of believing that the EU will back down to their demands if only they just get to November, December, and they still won't extend the transition period? Will the EU crumble and give Boris Johnson his deal? And I know that they won't, but does he know that? But no, I think the government actually just is actually mad. I think no deal Brexit is the aim. People in the EU are now openly saying, I think this is the aim as well. These people in government don't care about their country, only their political careers. And they have affixed their political careers to a form of Brexit that has no ties at all with the EU. And they've done so with superglue and, for good measure, a nail gun. They simply can't extend and keep their positions in government. It's just not possible. So they will seek the hard Brexit path unless someone forcibly stops them. And the only people who can forcibly stop them are backbench Tory MPs. But the only people who were allowed to stand for the Tories in the general election were the ones who also superglued and nail-gunned themselves to that hard Brexit mast. So I wouldn't hold out much hope there. Admittedly, it wouldn't take many Tory MPs, but I don't think even those numbers are there. So January comes round and the massive tailbacks to Dover begin. Hauliers are complaining that they haven't been given the information that they need to fill in the paperwork, or that it's too costly. Much of the food that we import can't get in because it spoils whilst it's stuck in a queue for days. This leads to shortages, then panic buying, then extended shortages. Because with the COVID panic buying, the empty shelves were relatively short-lived. Yes, there are some things that are still not there, but generally speaking, it's there because supply wasn't really affected that much. Now supply will be hit, so shelves will remain empty for longer because there will be genuine supply issues. Then we'll have shortages of medicines. We know what the consequences of that's going to be. And the government expects to get away with this. How? And this is what I couldn't get. How? And I sort of had this thought, but I thought, no, they wouldn't get away with it. They wouldn't. But I do think it's their plan, and it really did puzzle me until I realised that they will actually seek to get away with it in the same way they intend to get away with COVID, by blaming us. They will, because I was trying to think, how are they going to hide the impact of Brexit? But now I realise they're not going to. They're not even going to try. They can't. The impacts they can hide, they will. The economic damage, they'll hide that. The rest of it, they can't hide. So they won't. They'll embrace it. They will say, no matter how bad Brexit gets, it's our fault for voting for it. In the same way they intend to get away with COVID, by blaming us. If we didn't like the hardships that come with Brexit, they'll say, why did you vote for it? Never mind that they promised us great things, that our lives would get better and not worse. That won't matter. They will have delivered on their election promise. That is what they'll say. We promised this thing and we delivered it. And that'll be an end to it. And with that in mind, I say again, this summer will be very instructive. The government, as soon as the second wave becomes undeniable, I mean, really, if the government were going to be honest, they'd say the second wave has already started. But they're not going to. They're going to deny it as long as they can. Then there'll come a point where they can't deny it. Then the blame. They will seek to blame us. It's not our fault. We said you can go out, but you need to be socially distanced. And they'll even put up the images of people on the beaches. That's not social distancing, they'll say. It's their fault, not ours, members of the public. It's your fault, they'll say. If they want to say it's your fault, they'll say it's not your fault. It's all your neighbour's fault. It's everyone else's fault. And here's the thing. If they get away with it, if it works, and I think it's a decent chance of working, and I know a lot of people will be going, well, the Dominic Cummings thing might turn the public against it. You've got to bear in mind, the media also had a pop at Dominic Cummings. The media piled in on that as well. It was not just a public outcry, but a media-backed outcry as well. And that won't happen with the lockdown, because the right-wing media also, even the more grown-up papers where you'd think it'd be different, like the Times, they also wanted the lockdown eased. They're not going to attack the easing of the lockdown because they campaigned for it. So the media won't egg on the public on this. It would have to be a genuine public outcry, independent of the media. And for that reason, they may get away with it. And if they do, it will embolden them. And I absolutely will be utterly certain at that point. At the moment, I'm just more than half certain. Now, I would be utterly certain that they will intend to use exactly the same. They'll be completely emboldened that they can blame us for anything and we'll buy it and still vote for them. And if it doesn't work, if the public decide they don't fancy taking the blame for this, and they don't fancy blaming their neighbours either, that they think to themselves, no, this was your fault. You're the government. You said it was safe for us to go out and it wasn't. That will be interesting. That will be interesting. But anyway, there it is. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.